Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first HelloFam podcast. I'm your host, Shalini, and I'm excited to have you all here. We hope that you've all been enjoying HelloFam so far and found it to be a positive experience on your life and your longevity. We are happy to see people using our latest update, the community feature. Our podcast is actually one of our newer initiatives to reach you, our longevity enthusiasts. In this podcast, we'll talk with longevity doctors, key opinion leaders, and others into their views onto longevity. Our goal is to provide you with greater insight into the world of living long and well, as well as learn some practical tips to incorporate into your daily lives. So join me today in welcoming our very first guest speaker, Dr. Bobbie Kumar, a co-founder of HelloFam and a longevity doctor. Welcome, doctor. We're happy to have you here.
Hi. Thank you, Shalini. Thank you for having me. And I'm really excited about the launch of the podcast. So
Thank
congratulations.
you. If you could you give us a little background about yourself and your expertise that brought you to HelloFam?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a family physician by training. I have done primary care pretty much my entire career, but a lot of the work around primary care has really been in preventative health. And I think in the current landscape, the understanding of preventative health is how do we prevent cancer and how do we prevent chronic diseases? Um, the the mission that I had in my practice was not just the prevention of these diseases, but how do we take action now in ensuring that we're living our lifestyle the way that we need to support living healthier for longer. And so in my background, I have done full spectrum primary care. I have experience in urgent care, hospital medicine, seeing some of the sickest of the sick. And now most of my practice is around building the building blocks for individuals so that they can make the most out of their life to be fulfilling, so that they can be healthier in the years that they live. And I think that is our ultimate goal, is to live, look, and feel our best.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I was gonna say, let's dive right into discussing HelloFam's mission, increasing longevity. So, given
Yeah.
that there's so much going on in this field, can you start by telling us your definition of longevity?
Yeah, I think there's this very common understanding that longevity means we're going to live
Mhm.
longer. And I take a different approach to it, is that if you look at where we were 40 years ago, we definitely have increased our average lifespan for the average American. What I am hoping to now do is take the years that we're living and add health to them. And that is through guidance on how our lifestyle impacts um, the years of health that we have. Um, it really doesn't make a difference if you live to be 75, but only 50 of those years are in good
Mhm.
health. I would love for 74 and a half of those years being in entirely good health, if
Mhm.
not the full 75. And so my hope is that when we talk about longevity, that we're not looking at it from the lens of just living longer, but just living better, living healthier, um, adding health to the years that we have. When we talk about um, chronic disease, it impacts us, we're seeing now, earlier in earlier generations than it ever was. High blood pressure, diabetes occurring in years of age 30 and up, and sometimes even younger. And so I feel like we're at a inflection point where we have the opportunity to take information that has been studied, well documented, and apply that to our daily lives to close this
Mhm.
gap that we're currently experiencing.
Yeah, and I guess you kind of touched on this, but again, people have been fascinated with living longer since the early times. So, what has changed in recent times that really make this practical compared to then? Because, of course, the average lifespan has increased from when it used to be like 30 or 40 to now 70s.
Yeah. So I feel a lot of it has to do with our more deeper understanding of what the research is showing. I think aging has always been looked at as, obviously it's a normal process of living, but I think with the advances that we've seen in research as it pertains to genetics and at the cellular level, what senescence looks like what biomarkers of aging look like. We now have not only more understanding, more data, we also have more tools that allow us to take a more multi-pronged approach to health. So it's not just here's a medication to treat your chronic disease. It is what are the steps? What is the path that we should be taking earlier on upstream in our life journey so that we can make a greater impact earlier on and set us on the right course and trajectory. Um, there's quite a bit of data when we talk about sleep and physical activity and how these actually impact specific biomarkers within aging. And so my feeling when we talk about practical, like the practicality around HelloFam, it's about getting a very keen understanding about what we can control and how the research and data supports the implementation of those um, behavioral changes and lifestyle changes to support being healthier.
Yeah. And again, I guess I see that multi-pronged approach with the HelloFam 10 key areas of wellness. So I totally see your thought and reasoning behind that. And again, for listeners who
Yep.
don't know what senescence is, and of course, Dr. Kumar, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's when there's cell death, which leads to aging as we see, which is again a natural process, but the process in which our cells slowly die off is controlled by creating better, more healthier choices in your lifestyle. So going along with this, when
Yes.
speaking specifically about HelloFam, we have the longevity
Yep.
program that's been having weekly goals and giving building blocks to a better and long-lasting life. What specific
Mhm.
lifestyle changes do you think had the most significant impact on increasing longevity?
Yeah, those are very good questions because I think there's actually a tremendous amount of data in all of the different areas of focus that we have within HelloFam. I And if you were to ask me 6 months ago, I feel like it probably would have changed even just because of how quickly data is emerging. But I look at muscle
Mhm.
specifically, muscle as what we say the currency of
Mhm.
life. There's a lot of information around how muscular atrophy and all of the changes hormonally and biologically that occur as we age and the loss of muscle over time directly correlates to um, uh, reduction in our basal metabolic rate, our metabolism as a whole, our ability to, our physical activity, the risk of falls, the risk of injury, mobility. And so physical activity I look at as a very substantial part of not just this program, but about how we implement physical activity into our daily lifestyle. There's been, I believe, a study published in JAMA that talked about uh, in the absence of physical activity, you'll increase your mortality by 30 to 40%. Like that is substantial. And then when you look at the changes that individuals go through in various stages of their life, you experience muscle loss, muscle atrophy. That impacts the ability for our for bones to be supported, the risk of fractures, and how that puts us into debility earlier on. So I look at physical activity as not just this is a means to, you know, weight optimization or metabolic optimization. I really look at it as it is impacting our physicality, our
Mhm.
appearance. It is what supports our metabolism. It's what supports and prevents us from debilitating conditions that
Mhm.
affect us as we age. And then secondarily, I would say nutrition is is probably, if not equally as important, right?
Yeah.
If not more important, at the same time, depending on the individual. There's, if you look at what the cardiac specialists that focus on cardiovascular disease risk reduction and stroke risk reduction, they all
Mhm.
comment on the Mediterranean diet. And even to date now, the push for a whole food, plant-based diet. That doesn't mean vegan, that doesn't mean vegetarian, but it means leading with unprocessed foods and leading with more plant-based foods into your diet actually helps to reduce many of the chronic diseases that we face later on in life. Um, Along with technology, we now have ease of access and convenience that are challenging in a very in an environment that's hustling and bustling. And so all of us, especially at this age, have thriving careers. We have families, we have activities, and it's really hard to uh, find the time to be thoughtful and mindful of the food that you're putting in your mouth, while also being mindful of cost and convenience and how it fits into your activities. But the data that we try to bring and the way that we try to bring it out into HelloFam is in um, small, meaningful changes that can be implemented and easily funneled into your daily habits so that everybody could be benefiting from these small changes.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like a lot of it comes down to socioeconomics and the ability to actually have access to these different variety of foods and even physical activity. Like going to the gym, you need the money to be
Mhm.
able to go spend on gym membership. So yeah, I definitely see how that
Yes,
goes, of course, affecting longevity. So kind of going into that again,
yes,
epigenetics is one of our focuses of longevity, and it's also a really new
yes,
emerging topic and point of research because of how much is still getting to be known about it. So can you quickly
yep.
describe what epigenetics is and how does a person's epigenetics have a direct or indirect impact on longevity? And again, follow up with that. What screenings can people take to mitigate some of these genetic risks towards that?
Yeah, so epigenetics actually refers to changes in gene expression that don't alter our DNA sequence, but they actually can be influenced by lifestyle. So when we talk about um, epigenetics, we're talking about doing testing to really understand what does our DNA tell about us? And then also what are the habits that we have in our current lifestyle? How is that actually impacting the expression of those genes? So there was a study that was published in Nature that showed lifestyle choices like the diet, our
Mm.
nutrition, how we manage stress. It can actually completely transform our epigenome and then impact our aging process. So when we look at different types of testing that is out on the market, we're looking at methylation specifically of DNA. It gives us insight into what is our biological age versus chronological age? What are the areas of risk that we should focus on? How can we really personalize and target someone to a specific intervention, whether we need them to really focus on dietary changes, whether it's their really focusing on stress reduction or sleep optimization. These are all specific areas that in our lifestyle, if we can move individuals into performing optimally in each of these buckets, we now have the ability to positively impact their health span. And I think it gives individuals, users, a very clear understanding of things that they can control. Because there's this, very common I would say, I don't want to say necessarily misconception, but I would say misinterpretation of what our genetics tells us. Our genetics are not finite. It is not that they can never be changed. There are things that we can do to really move the dial to increase health span, and epigenetics is a way to catalog that.
Yeah, exactly. And for HelloFam users that are listening, if you go onto our latest feature, the community, and check out the epigenetics tag, there should be an article already posting about the difference between biological and chronological age, which is really interesting, as well as what exactly epigenetics is and going more into nitty-gritty of it. So thank you, Dr. Kumar, for explaining that. It is a very fun and
Yes.
interesting and very new topic. So just to round off our episode for today, just want to ask a final question about what's next for HelloFam.
Yeah, I think you actually did mention the marketplace, and I think that's a very important key feature. There's so much information out there that you have on social media, and you have TikTok docs, and I think the information overload sometimes, but really understanding what are what are vetted resources? What are evidence-based resources to support living healthier for longer? And our marketplace is a curated space of these types of resources. The HelloFam team is able to bring together uh, a list of resources by vetting out competitors, by ensuring that they're using proper evidence-based practices, and it's not just uh, ad hoc anecdotal data that's coming to you. It is verified information and resources that really help to support aging gracefully.
Thank you. And I guess thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope our listeners also enjoyed learning a bit more about what longevity is from one of our longevity doctors. So yeah, thank
Yes.
you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me,
Mhm.
Shalini.